Hello and welcome to the bowels of the Battlefront studio in Auckland. I'm Alex Tobeski and I do the online content and social media for all your favourite Battlefront games. And today I'm sitting down with my co-worker and friend Wayne, who has just finished work on Great War, which comes out March 13th. How are you, Wayne?
I'm good, yeah.
Cool. So we've got some questions from Facebook for you to answer that we left up over the weekend.
I've been looking at those as they've been coming in.
Good. And the first one we have here is from Alex Hackett, who asks, what points level do you see a standard game being played at, and what does that translate to in terms of how big the armies are on the tabletop?
Well, we normally, all our games, Flames of War, Team Yankee, Great War, they're all 100 points is your average game size. The game you're kind of aiming for to play on your table at home. But of course, if you're building an army, you kind of start at a smaller level. You want to maybe start at 50 or 60 points and then work your way up. Now, Great War, the balance in Great War is a little bit different to, say, Flames of War. You got things like tanks here, which are kind of expensive compared to the rest of your army, but also artillery is quite expensive, a lot more expensive than it would be in Flames of War. So if you want to have those things, they're going to take a good proportion of your army.
Right.
Yeah. So you're looking kind of similar size as far as your core formation troops to Flames of War as far as infantry and stuff goes, but then you'll probably have the less support because of the expense of that support stuff. Yeah.
And a lot of the guns, they are individual things.
You can buy an individual gun or a pair of guns. Or
Cool. Our next question comes from Jesper Hugard Johansson, who asks, from a historical perspective, what does Wayne find most interesting from the Great War? A campaign, battle, person, technology?
Well, I came at it all from the kind of the technology and the kind of unit sort of point of view. At university, in my postgraduate studies, I looked at the New Zealand division. So the first thing I did with that was I looked at the tactical development and how tactics got disseminated and changed within a division in relation to the rest of the British Army, basically. And then later on I got interested in morale, because there's a lot of the British divisions in 1918 had a big slump in morale. And that coincided with things like the French army mutineering and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to have a look at how that is affected and how that can be reflected in like the unit records and stuff. So I kind of got interested in that sort of academic side of things. But then from a personal wargaming point of view, I've always had an interest as well as the New Zealand division in the Eastern Front. So we haven't had a chance to do that yet, but it'd be cool to have a look at that one day. Yeah.
Which actually does bounce off into a question from Paul Beckus, who's voicing the question of many people. Is this a one-off book for World War I, or will we explore other areas like Palestine, earlier in the war, the Eastern Front, Austro-Hungarians and Italians?
Yeah, well, at the moment it is just a one-off book. It's just focusing on 1918. Though a lot of the stuff in the book can also be used for 1916-17 as well on the Western Front. If it's proves a massive success and there's the interest, we may one day look at something more for it as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd like to see some.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Some Russians and some Middle Eastern
stuff, because you know, more activity of the British.
Yeah, do some Lawrence of Arabia things.
Yeah.
Here we have a question from Piotr Peter, who asks, what is the main difference between this and the old Great War books in its two previous incarnations?
Yeah, well, the first one was more a pamphlet with a couple of lists in it.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, and then the second one was an actual Flames of War version 3 size book, and that was to be used with the version 3 rules, and it had we added French and American, so it had British, Germans, French and Americans.
Yes.
So in this book we've replicated those forces, we've added extra formations to all four of those, and we've added the Belgians, and also the book, like Fate of the Nation and NAM, contains a version of the rules. So it has a Great War specific version of the Flames of War rules. So like NAM and Fate of the Nation had Team Yankee version, this has a Flames of War version. So it's the Flames of War rules with modifications for Great War. Yeah.
Right.
But it's all self-contained one book.
Right, same size as Fate of a Nation and NAM.
So if you've got those ones already, it fit on the bookshelf right next to them.
It's snugly on the bookshelf with them. All right. Couponus Collector. If that's a real name, then I shouldn't laugh. Couponus Collector asks, I see cavalry are now included as a choice. What aspects do cavalry formations or units bring to the game?
I would say, like in real life, their role is a role of speed in the kind of post-breakthrough exploitation phase of the battle. On the table, in any scenarios or missions you're playing where you're playing on a reasonably open battlefield, there's not a lot of like cratered terrain or trenches to run through, the cavalry are in the element. Mm-hmm. And both cavalry formations have access to armoured cars which can keep pace with them. So they can move around the battlefield quite fast and then sort of dismount or fight mounted if they want to and hold a position.
But will I be using them to run over infantry?
No, because one of the flaws with cavalry in World War I was that the machine gun arrived.
Right, so I have to shoot all of the machine guns out first and then charge my cavalry in a flying wedge formation.
Well, if you want to, yes. But most of the time cavalry in the Great War worked as mounted infantry.
Right.
So they were using the speed of the horse to get around the battlefield, to get into a good position, then they'd dismount.
Right.
And fight on foot.
And they dismount similar organisation to the rifle.
Yeah.
Right. So they're carrying machine guns on horseback and things to unload later.
Because they were carrying them on horseback. Like the British cavalry used Hotchkiss machine guns rather than Lewis guns, because Lewis guns were a bit bulkier and heavier.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you get them into position, then you dismount and dig them in, and they can do their business. Fantastic. Tom Culpepper. Other than the existing range, what new miniatures will we see?
Well, we already mentioned the cavalry, so adding cavalry to it. So there's French and British cavalry. Mm-hmm. We added the armoured cars as well. So there's the French white armoured car, and the British is a Austin armoured car. And then we've added a few figures here and there where we've needed to fill out the range, like the German Stoßtruppen get a few more MP18 submachine gun figures.
Right.
So I think we only had originally 1 or 2. Now they've got 5 or 6 figures, I think.
Is the Canadian autocar?
Oh yeah, the Canadian. Don't forget the Canadian autocar.
Never forget the Canadian autocar.
Is it basically a little truck with two Vickers machine guns mounted on the back of it, and a bit of armour plate on it?
What's its rate of fire?
Because there's 2 machine guns, so yeah.
12, isn't it?
Yeah, it counts as 2 machine guns.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that can that's just for mobility more than anything. It's not meant to be like a tank. It's more it's like a mobile firing platform that the machine guns don't have to dismount to set up. They can drive to a position and fire from the back of the autocar. Yeah.
And it looks utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's got spoked wheels.
It looks so dumb. Why anyone would ride that into battle is beyond me. Godfrey Blackwell asks, are there plans to do Austro-Hungarians, Russians and Italians in the future? I've double mentioned that question. Yeah,
no, well that's all right. I mean, as I said earlier, if it proves to be a massive success, it'd be a great thing to put into it.
Well, let's rephrase that question. Say I wanted to do Austro-Hungarians now. Are they any different to Germans in 1918? They basically look essentially the same, don't they? Wearing the same uniform.
Their assault troops would be very similar to the German Stoßtruppen, because that's where they got most of their training and stuff.
Most of their kit from too,
right? Very similar kit. I mean, the underneath uniform is mildly different, but once you've on a 15mm figure, once you paint it up, it doesn't make a lot of difference.
Right.
You could, if you wanted to have a bit of variety for the look of figures, you could always use the World War II Hungarian figures or something. Paint them in grey. And use them as Austro-Hungarians.
That could work out.
Yeah, and you could just use the normal German list in the meantime, and just say they're Austro-Hungarians. And with for facing the Italians, who they fought on the Italian front, you could probably get away with using. Even though the French Italians are organised slightly differently, you probably get away with using the French guys if you wanted to.
Right.
Italians, yeah.
So there are options for now.
You could almost get away with using the World War II French that were done for the Mediterranean that are not wearing greatcoats, and paint them up green as Italians.
Getting a little bit sneaky there.
Yeah.
Getting a little bit sneaky there.
Yeah.
But for now, everything is already done for these four.
Yeah.
US 5.
Yeah, including the Belgians now. Yep.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah,
so
5.
US, British, German, French, and Belgians.
Yes.
So there's actually plenty of stuff there. You can hold out a little bit. You can
And of course
make a couple armies before you need to do Italians.
And of course, there's some sort of other nations fighting inside those nations, like the British have. You can take them as Canadians or Australians or New Zealanders, Anzacs.
And the French have Russians.
The French have a Russian Legion guys, and they also have the Harlem Hellfires, which were African American guys fighting.
Yeah.
Were American units, but they came under French command and were given French equipment and trained by the French to fight.
All right. So there's plenty of variety, so we can hold out for everything else for later.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff. Mikhail Maciejewski asks, what is your favorite force and one you always wanted to paint from the new book? Why?
Well, when we first started Great War, I already grabbed myself a British and a German force, so I was going to do a New Zealand division force from the British. Now I can do that properly because we actually have the troops with different ratings to represent them. And I was going to do a research and pick one of the German divisions they faced at some point.
Yep.
And represent them. And then now we've got French. I thought I've always wanted to do a French Army Border one. Just the horizon blue looks kind of cool. So,
does look very good.
Yeah, so I thought I'd do some French. Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And if anybody's wondering, I want to do US Marines, but cool. I don't think anyone's wondering. Nobody directly asked me on the Facebook page what I wanted to do. Scylla McCarthy has asked, what game mechanics have you used to distinguish Great War from its World War II counterpart?
Well, there's some obvious things, like we've got the land battleship rules. So it takes more than one penetrating hit to knock out a big tank like one of these or one of these. So you've got to hit it a couple of times to stop it functioning. So we've got those rules. So they're quite hard to knock out. We've also we've got a bunch of different missions that are specifically World War I orientated. We've made a few minor tweaks in the rules, like things like instead of minefields in defensive battles, you get barbed wire. And we've added a lot of specific rules for troop types, like cavalry rules and various rules that go with the troops. Each individual specialist force, like say like the Stoss troop, has a few extra special rules and things like that. But other than that, we really wanted to keep the basic core of the rules very similar to Flames War, so someone could easily transition from one to the other.
Yeah. Fantastic. And our final question is from Mark Holmstrup, who asks, assuming multiple formations will be allowed, what are some formation combinations that you think would be especially useful or just a little bit fun and interesting?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not restricted to just taking one formation in support. You can take as many as you want, but of course you're obviously limited by how much things cost and what points limit you're playing. But one comes to mind is the Siegfried Lines Stellung, sorry.
Oh, the Siegfried Stellung.
Yeah, that is a force that the troops from that formation are on table before you put any other things on table. So with that, if you get your balance right in a defensive battle, you have those guys on table holding the line. They're kind of stodgy and a bit hard hits, but then you get some aggressive troops like Stoss troop and as the guys who come on from reserve to conduct your counterattack and push the enemy out of any position they're trying to take. So you kind of use them as they were historically used.
So you take a couple punches, then you dish them.
Yeah. And then you can do similar things like with the French. You could take a mix of metropolitan and colonial troops, as the colonial troops have a reputation for being more aggressive. You could use those as if you're playing in a battle where you've got a flank you're holding and a flank you're attacking on. You have the colonial troops attacking on the attacking flank and the metropolitan troops holding the line, sort of thing. Yeah.
So there's lots of options. They can mix a lot of stuff.
Mix your cavalry with your infantry and use the infantry to pin the enemy while the cavalry try and maneuver around them and take the objectives.
And then there's lots of like historically, there's lots of American and French.
Yeah, American and French working together. Various times the British and colonial troops working side by side, so New Zealanders or Australians or Canadians, whatever.
What about the poor, sweet Belgians?
The Belgians. Well, the Belgians spend most of their time on the defence.
Yeah.
So, but we've given, just for a variety, we've given them some options to take some British or French support because at various times they were nearby. So, yeah.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for answering those questions. And thank you everybody for asking them. You can check out all the stuff we get up to on the Great War website, which is greatwar.flamesofwar.com, and there's also a Facebook group that Patch will put on the bottom of the screen now, because I've forgotten specifically what it's called, but it's called Great War, the Flames of War miniature page, something like that. It's a good place. We've been sharing a lot of pictures, sharing a lot of discussion. Join in that there, and hopefully we see you guys playing games. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks.